Okay, here's a look at the markets for Friday, January the 27th, 2017. The ES really didn't do a whole heck of a lot overnight. You can see it had a fairly tight range. It got up here to the 97 area and had a low down here around 91. The kind of supports that we were looking at was basically 90.25 up to the high at 96.50. So just came up there and touched onto the high, and came down fairly close within a point or so of the support. So nothing really going on here overnight, other than it stayed contained. When the European session opened, though, it did find some selling, as you can see here and here, more here and here coming down. Did have a bit of a bounce, didn't quite make it to the 96 area, back up there again, but certainly a pretty tight containment. So really wasn't expecting a whole heck of a lot for the trading day. You can see here that we ended up with basically our third day of consolidation after the move up. So depending on how you want to read that, a couple of days of consolidation. But the values here, as you can see here, are mostly overlapping. Now, today, of course, did not overlap yesterday, but when you take a look at the values that we had created on Wednesday when the market had the gap higher and then continued, you can see that pretty much most or all of yesterday and most of today had their values within this range. So I don't really think, the market here, even though we've got a pretty sizable excess here and another sizable excess here, which is where we got down to and tested today, this then becomes the resistance area right in here. So, when you extend that out, it roughly is 87 to about 91.50 for this area, which is, I would say, our containment for right now, which is pretty much today's value area expanded. And also, when you take a look at this, when I'm saying from roughly 87, let's call it 92 just to be easy, you can see here that, well, let me just get that other overlay. Okay, just continuing on here, you can see the 3 days. So once they get merged together, roughly 87 to 91.50, you can see here it's expanded a little bit more, and the excess is certainly more holding onto the downside here. As you can see, the base is held here, whereas obviously we had traded up here on Thursday. So the expanded one, roughly 94 down to about 88, and I was just saying 87 to about 91 and a half. So, there's obviously a bit of difference between these two, but I think this one right here is the one that is containing the market right now, and then we can use this other larger one here should the market get back up and test up into this area, which could very well be resistance. But I still like the fact on the bullish side that this is holding, and then of course we've got the gap below the market here. So in my opinion, we've got good support in here and good support in here, 84 and then around 87. And those are the levels I'm really going to be watching pretty closely to see if they can hold, see what the market does should it get down there and test into there. I'm anticipating a bit of a test and some sort of rejection. So, that could be a good trading opportunity. On the other hand, of course, if it comes out of nowhere sort of thing and sells off for whatever reason, news that's unexpected or whatever, and comes through these two areas, then we're likely to get another sizable leg down. But while this gap is holding in particular, and also while this excess is holding, we've got some pretty good support that we can work with. And here you can see it on the 10-minute. So we had that 90 and a quarter level, which was the support that we were looking at actually from the day that it moved up, which was Wednesday. It tested it yesterday, moved below it today, but only hit the next one down, which was at 87.50. We hit 87 here late in the day, so that's that 87 area just making reference to. And here's the 91 and a quarter. So, this is really the closest, the tightest containment right here. So, the next level down here, obviously, next level after that down here, and the next one up here all the way to the day's high. You could maybe even look into about the 94 area, which is where the good selling started today. Now, as far as what really happened today, you can see as it sold off here, there wasn't really a whole heck of a lot going on. I mean, we had a couple level twos there, selling, which held, and we had a level 3 that did not, although it couldn't get back up above here. And so instead it went down and made a new low. Once again, no follow through, and it comes back up, couldn't make another high here, just like over here, no new high. Then it comes back down all the way late in the day and gives it one more test with this red bar and then bounces, not a lot. So just a very quiet day, not a real lot of opportunity. I mean, if you're looking to get long here off of the rejection, this was the next target and just didn't make it. This one here, you got a little bit more room to move from here to here, as opposed to this one is like only a point or something. So at least you got a little bit more room to move on this one. And this one here had a little bit more room as well, up into this area that it actually never did make it to. So just a very, very quiet day. And I'm looking for, a move either below 87 or above that 91, 92 area to see if we can get some vertical movement, and then get back up here and test into this 96, 97 area, 96.50, which is the current high. The crude had a good movement today. You can see it opened and sold off very swiftly, but then turned around. We had a couple of really good waves of selling that came in today. You can see them here. Let's go back to the profiles for just a moment. We did have the good move up. I was saying yesterday that it did have some extension, but not enough. Closed in here, so we had support right in here, or maybe even the single prints down here, and then of course the next one down into all the way into this area. Well, we take a look here, you can see that it had two really, really swift selling waves here. The first selling wave, as you can see here, really stayed near the bottom of it for most of the time. So this became a good resistance area. It hit it once and backed off, didn't make a new low, so it, instead, so it comes back up, moves above here. Interesting, when it moved above there, immediately that green bar had its low taken out. We talked about this before because I think it's a good thing to know when a move occurs beyond. And this is our resistance right here, right? We got a trade location zone. The market moves above there. It's almost like testing the high of the day. Level 2, tests the high of the day, immediately has, or within 2 bars, has its low taken out. Not only that, but it gets its low taken out with very, very aggressive selling, magenta bar. So that's, we obviously need to watch that. Now, we had something similar but different in the sense that we had a blue bar on the low of the day here. Now its high did get taken out, but this is right on the heels of not consolidation as we did here, but right on the heels of vertical. So it's a different immediate background that we need to take into consideration if you're looking to make any kind of trade. This one up here, we could say that when it moved above a known barrier, it failed once that bar had its low taken out right here. There's no barrier down in here to speak of, that we could really, tie on to. Certainly not the one that had been created during the day like this upper one here. So we had the resistance, and it eventually got up here and closed just above it to finish off the day. Another thing I just wanted to point out here is that, when this market did come down here with some very, very fierce selling, it sort of hovered around the low, whereas you can see this one here, it had already bounced a bit. And instead of bouncing like off of this green bar here and having the green bar's low taken out and come back down and test the low like it did here. Here's the green bar here, rallies a bit, gets its low taken out, and comes down here and tests the low. Well, this didn't get anywhere near the low. And when it did take out the low of this green bar, it decelerated. And then pretty soon we're taking out the high of that green bar, and we're staying above it here, use it as some support, and end up with a bit of a lift to finish the day. So, this was sort of the next target here, and we got the next target here, and then we got the next target here. So 53.40 is really the key one as far as our upside resistance is concerned. And, trying to get in on the long side here is, I know it's difficult because whenever you have really heavy selling like that, it's always tough to, step up to the plate, and get on board, sort of like, stepping in front of a freight train or whatever. But I think in this case, it made more sense because we had follow through on this green bar here. So you take a look at that green bar's range, and the inability of it to move lower here, and then it starts to move above it, comes down into it. You would think it would at least go halfway, if not test the bottom of that. But instead, it actually decelerates here and then moves above it. So we got good support here, takes out the high of this guy and gives us a chance to get it on the long side. So that was an opportunity there. And of course, the other opportunity on the short side really was here. When this test failed. I mean, you can even get short up in here. We did have a decel bar, just had a tick or two of follow through, and then it had its low taken out. Even this one is somewhat similar to this one. This one here, a little bit different, obviously. It was just a decel bar, and then its low was only taken out with a level 1. So it didn't have nearly the parameters that this next one did over in here, because we didn't have this one I would consider a failure to move higher, because it actually did move higher. This one, it didn't quite move high enough. It only hit the barrier. But when it moves a little bit beyond the barrier, it's in essence, on the short term, it's like a failed auction. And when the low of that bar gets taken out as swiftly as it does, then you've really got something to work with. So I think we talked about that in the webinar actually on Wednesday a little bit. Okay, and the gold, we continue to have pressure on the market early in the day, but then it turned around and actually rallied up. Now we still have these selling gaps above the market. As you can see, there's one here, and below the market we got this one here. So it obviously didn't get anywhere down near here, even though it had an opportunity to sell off and come back down below this guy. It did not. And then it had a fairly positive close. So I'm actually looking to, I'm looking for this market to likely test the 91 to 92 area, which is this gap right here, as early as the overnight session on Sunday or on Monday. And you can see here in the profile that, when the market did sell off, you can see it, here's the open here, it had a bounce and then sold off to new low and then turned right around with a positive close from the day's action, i.e. it closed above where it opened, but it closed right at the high of value. Although even though we did create slightly lower values today, slightly lower values, they're mostly overlapping. I would say, half of this one, the second one at least, I would say is overlapping. And so because of that, what I did is I just merged them together to get a little bit of a different look. And you can see here that the single prints down here are pretty impressive, and that was occurred early today, and then the markets moved up. So I'm not, if it goes up and closes this gap, I mean, that would be great. That would be great for the bulls. I have no idea if it's going to do that, but it really needs to do that before I think more buying is going to come in. I still think there's pressure on the market. Now, in the daytime frame, I actually was able to get the video working, and while I had these trades on, a couple of trades here in the gold, if you want to take a look at them today. The first one was after this market had a weak open, because remember, here's the gap up here, right? So we knew that there's pressure on the market. It had moved below that other reference level that we were talking about on Wednesday, gap down on Thursday, traded here, didn't close the gap. A weak open this morning that immediately had very aggressive buying. It's not a blue bar, it's a green bar, but look at it, I mean, that's a good range on that bar, when you just eyeball it compared to the ranges for the average bars, even over the previous day. So it came right up here, and look where it got to, right to the base of this blue bar here. So we know that that's a likely area of resistance. It got up in there and then turned around. Now we had selling here, and so when this green bar had its low taken out, I just got on board, and it had a nice swift move, almost $3. So I was able to take some profit out of there, but I was actually thinking it could very well get down to about here, which is about 77, 1177, which was the next target. Well, it didn't. It turned right around. Look at the excess on that bar that was formed on the low of the day. Rallied right up, made a new high, and look at that excess too. So we still got capping going on in the market from here to wherever, at least in this period of time. But you can see when it did pull back, I'll just put the low on that one and then the high of this one. You can see that when the market did rally up here and form this excess, it did come below it here and spend quite a bit of time, but it never got anywhere near down into this area. Now this one here, excess in here, it actually went up and made a new high for the day. So not only could the sellers only push it back maybe halfway or so, could not even get it back down to the support, and certainly didn't make a new low, right? Because that's what we got here when the market rallied up off of this excess. So, and then it started to trade above here. So I got in again on the long side this time after this excess had been erased. And it was this green bar here. It got back, I think, down on the low of that, if I remember correctly. And they had a nice little trade here. Ended up by getting stopped out as it came back down, but it still worked out all right. So you know, uh, it's not. I mean, it does happen, but to make a short trade and a long trade in the same market on the same day, it's a little different. But I think what happened today, which made it uh, um, a doable proposition, was the fact that we had this really good excess here on the low, and then a movement above this excess on the high that got itself totally erased, even though that's against the downward bias that we now have, because it took out that 90. I think it was 1195.40, as well as forming which was support on Wednesday, where we actually able to get on the long side on that trade, if I remember correctly. But then we ended up with a gap lower yesterday, and of course we ended up too with an existing gap. I mean, the gap held, not all of it, of course, because we opened down here, but still a good gap. So this is the next level of resistance, obviously around 91, and I would say the first support in here around 86, 1186 or so, and then obviously the next one down here around 83 and change. So anyway, there's a look at some of the markets for today. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.